Test. Good morning. We are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here to Davidson College Presbyterian Church, and at least for the first all Sunday school event since I've been here. So I'm glad you are here. Thank you for braving the rainy weather. Before we start our speaker today, I have a short introduction to a program that is upcoming in February. That may be of interest to you. We have a short video that we've put together, and hopefully it is gonna play here in a second if the computer gods line up correctly.
Hello, I'm Rick Britton, and I'm excited to tell you about an upcoming series called DCPC Conversations, Bridging the Gap, which will take place monthly starting Saturday, February 4th, and follow on successive first Saturdays in March, April, and May, each from 9 to 11 a.m. in the Congregation House. The purpose of this series is to help us, as a family of faith, to engage with others on what have been really tough topics. We are not seeking to agree on these topics, but to be open to hearing different opinions while continuing to love. So, what type of topics, you ask? Well, our February 4th session is entitled Relationships Over Politics. Let's take a moment to listen to two DCPC friends as they recently had a chance to chat after worship.
Hey, James, it's good to see you. I hope that you had a great holiday with your family and that you're looking forward to 2023.
Hey, Gwinnett, looking forward to a good year. The holiday was pretty good.
Well, I'm glad that you're looking forward to the new year, but tell me about the fact that it was pretty good with your family?
Oh, sometimes it just seems like I'm not even related to my own family. They're just so liberal, it's hard for me to get along with them sometimes.
Maybe we ought to trade families. I have a lot of family members that are very different, more conservative than I am. In fact, at a dinner with my brother, he started having a political discussion, and I tried to interact with him, but it just didn't go well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. My family has a policy just to leave politics off the table, but I wish there were a better way. I'm not sure that's the best policy.
Well, I'll bet that many of us have had similar challenges with hot topics and family and friends. Why, even here at DCPC, we have folks with a wide variety of opinions on topics, and that's okay. It is even good. Our Bridging the Gap series is designed to help us focus on listening to others, be open to different opinions, and find an empathetic way to engage on challenging topics. In order to accomplish this, we really want folks of all opinions to take part. So, if this sounds interesting, please look for reminders about the upcoming Bridging the Gap sessions in our usual DCP communications, such as the bulletin and our weekly emails. And please know that signups for the individual sessions will be available on Realm starting tomorrow. If you have any questions or you want more information, please contact John Ryan or any community mentor. And remember, we really do want folks of all opinions to take part.
Again, thank you for being here. Coffee is over in the window. If you're new here, bathrooms are down the hallway. And Sterling Martin is going to introduce our speaker this morning.
"64 years ago, I was privileged to join the Davidson College community as an 18-year-old freshman. I began working for the college a month after I graduated in 1963, first in the college union, then in 1966, the athletics department, where I remained for the next 40 years. In the summer of 1989, the then President John Kirkendall called me at Scout Camp and asked if I would serve as the interim AD for the next year while we awaited the arrival of Terry Holland, our next AD. That same year, Davidson College hired a young high school coach to take over the men's basketball program. At our first athletics department staff meeting in the fall, I challenged the coaches assembled to consider the 12 points of the Boy Scout law as a guide for our collective endeavors going forward. We should all strive to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. For the next 33 years, our speaker has lived these ideals in a remarkable career. His accomplishments as a basketball coach, teacher, mentor to hundreds of young student athletes, national and international ambassador for Davidson College and the town of Davidson are well documented. And I hope you will take a moment to review his record on the handout this morning. In the old days, we used to hear the phrase, "A Davidson gentleman needs no introduction." Bob, I have been blessed to have had you as a colleague and a friend for these many years. And Davidson College and the community have been blessed by your presence as well. You are truly a Davidson gentleman. Welcome to DCPC. Ladies and gentlemen, Davidson College's new leader in residence, Bob McKillop.
Thank you, Sterling. Thank you, Sterling, and thank you. I'm here to speak about how faith impacts life. So here we have a basketball coach, a practicing Roman Catholic, standing before a Presbyterian congregation and speaking about faith and life. I'm not here to discuss yesterday's loss at Virginia Commonwealth. I'm not here to offer you strategies. I'm not here to get you to follow the guidelines that I've followed as a Roman Catholic. In fact, forgive me if I tread on some theological landmines about my beliefs in the words I share with you today. You see, I believe that there's one roadway to our God. And we all are in different cars, sizes, colors, models. And maybe our method of transportation might not be a car, it might be a train, it might be a bus, might be an electric bicycle that Sterling just purchased, it might be walking, it might be running. And you know, our street signs and our directional signs are all in different languages. But there's one roadway. And I think we are in accord that there's a purpose for our journey and there's a destination for it as well. Let me begin by saying that we are all coaches. You're a coach as a spouse. You're a coach in our community. You're a coach as a mom and dad. You're a coach in your job in the training room. We are all coaches in every capacity that we perform on a daily basis. I hope what I say to you today is both pleasing and valuable. The most important thing for me right now is being right here. See, I'm a great believer that there are demons, there are distractions, there are devils, call it what you want, hovering around us every day in every aspect of our life. I hope with the grace of God that I'm able to defeat those demons today as I speak with you, but I'm here. I'm with you now, and I hope what I offer to you is something that's very helpful, and you take it from here and you live your life based upon some of these experiences I share. This is our locker room. I'm inviting you in. I'm asking you to join our team. And this is what I hope that you will give me. I hope you will let me touch your heart, touch your soul, touch your mind. Let me paint the canvas that you could walk onto that canvas. And this is what I will give you. I will share my experiences as a coach, as a dad, as a spouse, as a member of this community, as a Christian. The roles I've played. And in the process, I'm going to undress myself. I'm going to expose myself. I'm going to let you see some insight about me. I may be all over the map as I explain this. But one thing is certain. My commitment today is to help you. And please understand, I am not an expert. I'm not even an expert as a coach, which I've done for 50 years, 33 here. Not an expert as a spouse, which I've done for 46 years. Not an expert as a father, 42 years. Not an expert as a grandfather. In no way am I an expert. You know, I've lost 300 plus games, so I've had a lot of losses in my life. I've failed. Cut from my high school team 3 times, not once, 3 times. I lost a girlfriend. I was engaged and had to lose another girlfriend. I've had a lot of different things happen to me in my life where failure has been there. Have you been rejected for a job? Passed over for a promotion? Ever told you're not good enough? How about not being told, I love you? Or being told that and then waiting for it to be said one more time. I'm 72 and I grew up in the 50s and the 60s. My dad fought in World War II. He grew up during the Depression. He was one of 12. You know, when he was a young boy, I never knew this until I was about 22, 23, and my mother told me, we never went to a restaurant until the time I was 18 or 19 years old. And I never understood why. You know why? Because when my father was one of 12, my grandmother and grandfather would drive to the restaurant, leave the kids in the car, and go eat in the restaurant, and let the kids stay in the car. You see, my dad was a little boy once. And when he was a little boy, he was not given the love that he so deserved. And the love that he gave to me was all he had to give because he had so little. As you think about being a parent, as you think about being a spouse, as you think about being a sibling, how is that love expressed? Well, you know how my dad expressed his love to me? In 1963, my freshman year of high school, tryouts for the basketball team were in November, Saturday morning. And I went to a Catholic high school, and you had to take 2 public buses to get there. My father didn't drive me to practice because he didn't think it was that important. He didn't think playing for the high school team was as important as playing for the local church. See, the local church, you didn't have to pay any money. You didn't have to drive your car. You just walk right down the block. High school, geez, you'd practice after school every day, and you know what? I couldn't do the paper route that I had. And if I didn't do the paper route that I had, guess what? I didn't pay my tuition because I paid for my own high school tuition. So it wasn't important to my dad. And he didn't get up and drive me. And stupid me, I didn't realize it was a Saturday bus schedule. So I get to the normal 7 o'clock bus, and it wasn't there on Saturday. And I wound up walking halfway to the high school, and I got there about an hour and a half late. And guess what? Coach, varsity coach, sees guy's an hour and a half late. What kind of accountability, responsibility does he have? And I got cut. And it set the tone for the next 3 years. That's why I was cut. And yet, you fast forward, 1978, January, there was a tremendous snowstorm in New York. I'm a high school history teacher and coach making very little money in a Catholic high school. And my dad wanted me to have a house. I had just been married. And I was never going to be able to afford a house with the kind of salary I had. And I had been a teacher for about 5 years at that point, and I qualified for the FBI if I could get an FBI job. So I applied to the FBI, 1978. Major snowstorm. My dad drove me into Manhattan. The whole city's shut down. He drives me into Manhattan. Didn't drive me to practice, but drove me into Manhattan. I got appointed to the FBI. I got appointed in 1978 to the FBI. The big reason, because I was the only one that showed up for the interview. The guys that were doing the interview came from different cities, and they were already in Manhattan in various hotels right adjacent to FBI headquarters up in 70th Street. So I got the job. But the FBI wanted me to leave my teaching job in April. And I said, I can't. How could you leave a teaching job in April, teaching 5 classes? How do you do that? And I asked if they could postpone it till June. And they said yes. But guess what? I went for the physical. I think I'm a pretty strong guy, you know. I failed the physical. I failed the FBI physical, so I was rejected from the FBI. But the point is, what did my dad do in terms of coaching me? He showed me what was important at least in his life, for me. And we can't get caught with that demon, with that distraction, with that devil, that what's important in your life is also what's important in your child or your spouse's life. You know, my dad died, Alzheimer's, and never told me he loved me. Never. 66 years, 65 years, never told me he loved me. Guys in my generation might know that. I know, I've talked to many guys about that. I tell that story to our team, and you never know the impact you have. See, that's what coaches are. You will never know the impact you have as a coach. The words you say, the attitude you have, the lives you touch. So I told the team, and lo and behold, during the summer, one of our former players, František Babka from Prague in the Czech Republic, calls me up and says, "Coach, my dad died." And I expressed my sympathies. And he said, "Coach, I remember the story you told me. And you know what? He died without ever telling me he loved me. But you know what? As he's laying there on his deathbed, I told him I loved him." That's the power we have as coaches. That's the incredible opportunity we have to touch lives. I wonder, are you grateful for anything? Are you thankful for anything? I think we all have tremendous reason to be grateful, to be thankful. And just think about this for a second. Express your gratitude. Express your thanks to somebody and see how that makes you feel. See how that makes you feel when you say thanks. It's uplifting. It's inspiring. So I want to uplift myself and inspire myself. So thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your time today. Thank you for listening to me and showing that you care about me today. I am incredibly grateful to you for that. That's a gift that you are giving to me. Now think about those gifts, time and love. I'll come back to them later. But those are the two greatest gifts we have, the gift of time and the gift of love. You ever go to the airport and you're in a rush to get to the plane? And you go on the electric walkway and there's somebody with 3 bags standing in front of you not walking and you got to get past them? You ever had that experience? I got time. I got no time. I got no time. Imagine if you could put time in your pocket. Imagine if you could put love in your pocket and just use those gifts anytime you want. Those are the two greatest gifts God's given to us, and those are the two he wants from us to, one, use, but return to him. And that's what you're doing this morning, the gift of time and love. So let me bring you into this locker room. Years ago, Stephen Curry decides to join the NBA. Pretty good decision. And everyone on the team is now fighting to play the new role in Steph's absence. Boy, look at all those shots he took. Look at all those points. I'm going to get those shots. I'm going to get those points. There's no other Stephen Curry. It's not going to happen again. And the assigned roles were not pleasing to the team. So we have a team, a family, and they don't like their role in the team and the family. And we started losing. So you know what I did? They're on a court at Belk Arena one day, getting ready for practice, warming up. I go into the locker room. I go to each cubicle in the locker, and I take their clothes, and I throw them on the floor. Complete disarray. The locker room is in shambles. Go out to the Belk Arena, say, let's go back. We're going to have a meeting before we go on the court and practice today. They come in, and their eyes are bug-eyed. Someone must have got in here. Someone robbed our stuff. Why? What is all this mess? And I said, sit in your cubicle. They sat in their cubicle. I said, now clean in front of your own locker. And guess what? They cleaned in front of their own locker, and guess what happened to the locker room? It was a clean place. And you know, the video that was shown about conservatives and liberals, about understanding other people, what a great setup for me. I mean, I just loved hearing that. Hear a Catholic talking to Presbyterians. But now you think about that, clean in front of your own locker. Sweep in front of your own door, and the world will be a clean place. We've got opinions ad nauseum in our world today. Everyone has an opinion about everything. Well, take care of yourself and your family and what's in front of your door first. You know, that would change a lot in our world if you did that. Who are you to criticize? How many biblical verses do we have to quote to talk about that? We have opinions. Yeah, I have an opinion. Clean and sweep in front of your own door, and the world will be a clean place. Part of my Catholic upbringing was being taught by nuns. And I could never understand what made them motivated nuns. I just could never understand it. My goodness. But I tell you what, they gave me some of the most glorious experiences and memories of my lifetime. And I was a bad boy. Bobby, you're going straight to hell. You don't got a chance. And I was forever staying after school and writing on the blackboard with chalk, I will not talk in class. I will be a good boy. I will raise my hand before I have to speak. And I'd usually 100 times. I'd have to do the one thing 100 times. But you know what? It taught me a lesson. So now, we have this player last year named Luka Brajkovic. You remember Luka, right? A sweetheart. But Luka had no confidence in himself. He didn't believe in himself. He didn't trust himself. So I took Luka in front of the team last August. We just came back to campus. I bring him in front of the team, put him in the locker room, in front of the grease board. I said, Luka, come on up here, get the marker. I want you to write on the grease board, I am the best big man in the Atlantic 10. And he stood in front of and he felt stupid, and the guys were all laughing, and he writes it down, and he did it like 5 times. He says, no, I want 10. And he writes it 10 times. I want 15. And he did 15. And he did it. And everyone joked and laughed and clapped for him. August. In March, he was named Atlantic 10 Player of the Year. A guy with no confidence convinced himself, taught himself, motivated, inspired himself, built trust within himself because he did it in front of his teammates. And it wasn't just a conversation between Luka and myself, it was in front of his teammates. I love you, Dad. Never fear saying what's on your heart. Never fear it. Trust it. Back in the 90s, we had a disheveled team also. Everyone going their own direction. For those who want to record, it was the 94-95 team. My memory's too strong. I bring him into the locker room just like I did with the 09-10 team. And back in those days, you had transistor radios, and we didn't have these big boom boxes and loudspeakers. We had radios in each guy's locker. And when I came into the locker room, I had 5 different radio stations on. I had a rock station, I had a rhythm and blues station, I had an oldies station, I had a talk radio station, and I had WDAV. I had WDAV. And I said, turn the music up a little bit louder. So they all turned. 5 guys, this is what I did. I made 3 starters, 1 substitute, and 1 non-scholarship player turn the radios up louder. The music was awful. And then I asked them, change it to this station. And they changed it to 1 station, and all of a sudden, the music became beautiful. They were all tuned to the same station. And the message they got just resonated for the rest of that season. And we didn't have much success, but it resonated because they understood we were a team. Next year, we really showed the results of it. You know, I was never born to coach. I didn't grow up saying, Man, I dream about being a coach. I was born to play center field for the New York Yankees. But Yankees didn't know that. And deservedly so. So I become a coach because I thought I could influence. I thought I could impact. And boy, what an opportunity it gave me to impact, to influence. But here's a mistake. As I impacted and as I influenced, the demons started to strike. Hey, you're pretty good. Hey, you know what you're doing. You know a lot about basketball. And we started winning championships, high school championships. And I had very good players. And we were winning high school championships. And what I thought I was doing, helping guys, I started to understand that, hey, I can make some money doing this stuff. Hey, I could get on TV doing this stuff. And I turn on the TV and ESPN. I could do that. Are you kidding me? Lou Carnesecca, who's he? Dean Smith? This young guy in Durham, Mike Krzyzewski? I'm as good as those guys. I even went to one of Mike's practices when he was at West Point, and I said, man, he doesn't do anything magical. I can coach as well as he is. And then he becomes the star at Duke. And I'm thinking, as I'm watching this, the disease of me struck. Now, Adam and Eve are sitting in that beautiful Garden of Paradise. You think the disease of me struck those two? Absolutely. You see, coaching's faith. Basketball is life. The disease of me struck, and I come to Davidson College. Yeah, I was going to help. But you know what? I come here, and I was focused on climbing the ladder of success that's going to put me on TV, bring me back maybe to St. John's or maybe to Madison Square Garden with the Knicks, and I'm going to make all kinds of money, and I'm going to be famous. So all of a sudden, God had given me this great gift to be a coach, the great opportunity to influence people, and I'm taking that, struck by the demons and the distractions and the devil, and saying, oh, I'm going to take this and ride this. Just like Adam was put in the Garden of Paradise, he put me in that place and then said, don't eat of that apple. And sure enough, I took a big bite of it. And man, I was brought to my knees. I was absolutely brought to my knees in those first 3 years here at Davidson. 4 and 24, 9 and 19, 11 and 17. They're written on my heart. I know exactly where God brought me. And it was at that point that I redirected my focus. You know, God's grace brought me to my knees, but God's grace was going to bring me up. And what he said to me was, you have confidence, you believe in yourself, you trust, but your confidence is blended with arrogance. Blend that confidence with humility. Realize you have the gift of grace. And the second thing, you're committed, you're relentless, you're passionate, you work hard, but you're consumed. You're absolutely consumed by it. And the third thing he said was, you have toughness and you care, but you don't show you care. You don't know your players. You coach your players, but you don't know your players. You have no tenderness with your players. And lo and behold, we adopted that as our playbook for Davidson College basketball. Trust, commitment, and care. TCC. And I saw it first in the book written about Notre Dame's 1988 football championship when Lou Holtz, the opening meeting, he said, can you be trusted to do your best? Can you be committed to do your best? Will you care about each other and show it? And if you do that, you'll be champions. And you know, it's almost the same message God gave to us in the book of Micah. love tenderly, act justly, and walk humbly with your God. Love tenderly, commit, act justly, trust, walk humbly with your God, care. Simple things. And all of a sudden, guess what? It wasn't the Holy Grail. It wasn't some magic formula. But unless I used that for myself, unless I coached myself with that, unless I lived that, no matter what I said to our team, nothing was going to change. And sure enough, I tried everything I could to live that trust, commitment, and care in the way I coached and the way I lived my life. And let me tell you, the man I am, the husband I am, the father I am, the Christian I am, and the man, the husband, the father, and the Christian I want to be, there's a chasm that's very wide, and I live in that every day. And I'm constantly fighting to get to the right side. I talk about athletics and life. You all know who Nick Saban is, the great coach of Alabama. You know one of Nick Saban's guiding principles as the coach of Alabama is eliminate distractions. Eliminate distractions. A girlfriend, drinking, carousing in a bar, whatever it might be, bad academics, too much information in the newspapers, too much conversation in the social media. That's what Nick Saban tries to do to get his players better. Think about if we could eliminate those distractions in our lives. And I can't tell you how cunning and how wily the devil is. He comes to us in so many different shapes. He's in disguise all the time. My goodness, he's there. He's there all the time. Coaching yourself has got to be something that you do, and you got to do it every day. And it's got to be habit, just like Luca wrote that on the board, and it became habit. You've surely seen Stephen make crazy shots. He does it all the time. But did you know that when he left Belk Arena to go to the locker room every day, he'd shoot a crazy shot before he'd go into the locker room? He did that for 3 years. 100, 200 practices a day. Habit. Over and over and over again. Maybe that's why he succeeded. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to make it a habit. Well, how do you coach yourself? What's the way to coach yourself? You need help. You need teamwork. Let me give you an example of teamwork. When I first began recruiting overseas here, I also did clinics in Europe. Now, Kathy, my wife, could say to our 3 young children, "Where's Daddy?" "Oh, he's in some luxurious hotel eating these elegant pasta dinners." Because she's jealous she's not with me, upset she's not with me, upset that she's got 3 kids at home all by herself, and here I am gallivanting across the globe. But you know what she tells our kids? "Dad called this morning. Asked about you. How you doing? Want to know if you had any tests lately. How was practice going? Said to tell you he'll love you. And said he's going to be home on Friday. And he may even bring a player home with him." That's teamwork. That's the kind of spouse that makes that team vital. That's the kind of spouse that makes that distraction, that demon, suffocated. You see, basketball is unique. If I set a screen for you, you're going to get open. But you know what? My man is going to cover you, so I'm going to get open. When you set a screen in basketball, you get your teammate open. It's a simple rule. When you help somebody, you help yourself. What a simple rule of life that is. when you help somebody, you help yourself. But then the disease of me strikes. And you know, the basketball is like a spotlight, okay? You unplug that spotlight right now, and I put that in your hands, it's going to burn, right? But if you move that around and you throw it, you pass that spotlight, what's going to happen? No burn, and everyone's going to be in the spotlight. What a great example of basketball and life. Share the spotlight. Don't get infected by the disease of me. One of the difficulties I have in contemporary world is statistics and analytics, science. Everyone has the precise answer for everything. And I don't care, we're not just talking sports, we're talking everything. And believe me, statistics and analytics and science are incredibly valuable, but they're not the be-all and the end-all. There's got to be some gut. There's got to be some soul. There's got to be some heart. How can science explain? We took a trip to Auschwitz 3-4 years ago, and we were guided on the trip by Eva Moses Kaur, one of the Mengele twins. Her and her sister Miriam were 10 years old when they were taken to Auschwitz and put through some of the most extraordinary atrocities this world has ever seen. This woman forgave Mengele. She forgave the Nazis. She, in fact, told our team that as we stood, and if you've ever seen pictures of Auschwitz, movies with Auschwitz, they have the train tracks that lead right into the camp, and there's the train, and she described in great depth and detail. This is where the train doors open, and the guns were loaded, and the dogs are barking, and the water hoses are there, and everyone is screaming, telling us where to go. And my mother and my father and my 3 sisters and myself were there. And we were forced to jump from the train down to the cement. And she said, and it was newly made cement. She remembered that graphically. And she said, that was the last time I saw my mother and my father and my 2 sisters. The Nazi guard came up to us and said, because we were wearing the same dresses, to her sister Miriam and to her mother, are you twins? And the mother says, yes, they're twins. Is that a good thing? And they ripped the mother away and took the twins this direction. The selection platform. And this woman has the capacity to forgive. And then she resonates that message to our players. Science doesn't teach that. Statistics doesn't teach that. Analytics doesn't teach that. Give you some insight about me as a coach. One of the great joys of me in this new position, I have no referees. Unbelievable. And I got to share this with you. I would take, after each game, the 3 referees, I would write a story about what happened in the game. So verbatim, we said this guy calls charges, this guy is always out of position. We had many critical evaluations of referees. But, you know what I did? Hey, didn't you just have your daughter get married? Didn't your son just accept a scholarship to baseball to East Carolina? I knew biographical background on him, and I would put that in there. So as I reviewed, for the next time we had this referee, I reviewed these notes. You know what I'd focus on? I'd focus on a biography, not on the mistakes he made. And guess what? Because I focused on a biography, it endeared me to the referees. Man, he asks about my wife all the time. I think he must have a relationship with my wife. But it was the most uplifting thing for me to know that I dealt with them as human beings, as people, rather than as arbitrators, as decision makers, as officials, as referees. And it allowed me to forgive because I saw them in a different light. In 2005, 2006 season, over in Belk Arena, we're playing the Citadel. Our middle child, Matthew, is playing for us, now the current coach. And Matt was as tough as they come. He's tough as nails. And Matt was really good at taking charges. So the best player on Citadel happened to be 6'8", 240, big, strong, burly guy. And he's running down the court, and there's Matt, pops right into his pathway, gets knocked over, major collision. Referee blows the whistle, charge! Their player gets his third foul, is sent to the bench. Their coach, there's our bench, here's their bench. Their coach jumps up in the air. He's the dirtiest player in the league. When he comes to Charleston in February, we're going to end his career. This is what a Division I coach said loud for me to hear, for the entire scoreboard to hear, everyone to hear. I'm going to end his career. You know, the arrogant Bob McKillop would say, I'm going to knock you out. But the arrogant Bob McKillop had been influenced by TCC. And you know what? I decided to pray for him. And I decided to pray to change my heart. Not change his heart, change my heart. Sweep in front of my door. And I did. And that's what I did from January on. We went down to Citadel in February, no incident whatsoever. There was heavy police presence, but there was no incident. And as God so incredibly wisely does, our first round opponent in the Southern Conference tournament was the Citadel. And they're beating us by 13 points at halftime. Second half, God, whatever. I don't know. We beat them. Matt scored 21 points, I think, in the second half, wound up with 27 points. Remember, I'm going to end his career. After that game, the Citadel coach was fired. End his career. You talk about a question mark whether prayer for the right reasons and in the right way is valuable. It's absolutely extraordinary how powerful that is. You know, let me finish with a couple of poignant stories about trust and commitment and care. Stephen Curry has often remarked that one of the defining moments of his career as a professional athlete occurred even before he was a professional athlete. It was when he was a freshman at Davidson in his first game at Davidson. He played against Eastern Michigan in a tournament in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And he was in the starting lineup. And Stephen was as awful as he's ever been. We were down 18 points at halftime. Stephen Curry had 9 turnovers. And he wasn't even playing point guard. Halftime, locker room, the coaches get together, you know, can we keep Steph in the game? We're down 18, he's got 9 turnovers. They're pick sixes, he's giving them layups. We say, nope, trust. We put him in the lineup because we trust him. We got to show our trust. Keep him in the second half, and we win the game. Now, he finished with a double-double, 15 points and 13 turnovers. So, not the kind of double-double you like. But next night, he gets 32 points against Michigan. And he said and referenced that as one of the defining moments in his career. And very few people know this, but the Elite Eight year, that may never have happened. Second game of the year, we're playing North Carolina in the Charlotte. North Carolina is top 10 in the country. Before the game, we practiced at the Spectrum Center on a Friday, I think it was a Saturday game. We practiced, and before practice begins, Stephen, Del Curry, Ray Belts, our trainer, and I sat courtside. You know what we were discussing? Whether Stephen Curry should play this year. He tore the cartilage, the fibrotriangular, is that the correct term? Fibrotriangular cartilage in his wrist. And it needed surgery. And Stephen looks out onto the court and says, Thomas Sander, Jason Richards, Those guys are seniors that stayed last year. I'm going to go through the pain. Am I damaging it anymore? No, you won't damage it anymore. In fact, it might heal on its own after 6-8 weeks, but you'll be in serious pain. Stephen decided, I'm not letting those guys down. I'm committing to them. And sure enough, he played that year. But he could have shut the season down back in November of 2007, and we didn't have had that Elite Eight run. You know, when Stephen was drafted by the Golden State Warriors, there were two guys on the team who did not like him very much. For no reason other than that he was this young baby-faced assassin who was getting all kinds of media attention. A guy by the name of Monte Ellis and a guy named Steven Jackson. And they did everything possible to make the first 3 months with the Golden State Warriors a miserable experience for Stephen. And he would send me texts, Coach, what should I do? You know, and I said, Steph, just be who you are. And you know what Steph did? He cared. He showed he cared. He killed them with kindness. And by the end of the year, the text took a totally different approach. Steph, we've misjudged you. Steph, you're terrific. Steph, we love you as a teammate. Trust, commitment, care. Stephen Curry. In my first years here, when we lost miserably, game day, I would walk home across the street. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be in the den in our house, sequestered, reading my notes, getting myself ready for the game. And I'd sit there from 4 o'clock to 5:45 and then walk back across the street to the game. And I knew everything about every team. I knew everything. I had the team down pat. What every guy, I knew what the coach was doing. I knew what they had for pregame meal. I knew everything. And as I walked into the house to go sequester myself in the den, there's 12-year-old Matthew on the outdoor court shooting jump shots. I just walk right by him. Time, love. I had more important things to do, places to go, team to get ready, notes to read, consumed, relentless. And I walk right by him. And then a year later, we embraced TCC. And I had the same routine. I'd come home, but I'd stop and I'd play with him. I'd shoot with him. I'd pass him the ball. I'd encourage him. I'd teach him. And yet two things happened. First, I'd walk back across the arena, and I was not wound tight. I was relaxed because I spent that time helping. And not only was I relaxed, but the players would say, hey, coach is in a good mood today. He must think we're going to win. How about that? When you help somebody, you help yourself. And then, of course, Matt becomes a player for us and a great success story for us. When you help somebody, you help yourself. And the final story, in 2011, the Southern Conference tournament was in Charlotte. It was a major coup for Davidson because it was going to be a home game. Our fans would come out in numbers and we'd have a real significant advantage. During our daughter's high school years at North Mech, she was a great tennis player. I never went to a tennis match, and if I did, I was dictating recruiting letters as the match was going on. The Sadie Hawkins dance or the Pop daughter dance, I never went to it. Prom, never got dressed to take pictures. I completely didn't show any kind of love for her. Didn't give her any time. I'll never have that back. What a regret. So, fast forward 2011, Southern Conference tournament. This is going to be our team. This is going to be our year. We get knocked out in the first round. We're the best team in the league, and we didn't even advance to the semifinals. We get knocked out. Oh, I wanted to be in that arena. I wanted to be there playing in the championship game. It was on ESPN, 9 o'clock on that Monday night, March the 7th. March 7th, 11:10 p.m., Wofford beat App State to win the Southern Conference Championship. March 7th, 2011, I was at Thomas Jefferson Hospital in Charlottesville, Virginia. Karen gave birth to Maggie. I was there. I wanted to be in the arena, but God put me there. What a powerful message about our loving, gracious God. I certainly hope that you take this and you leave here today. Trust, commit, care, yes. But use those gifts of time. Use those gifts of love. Share them. Give them to each other. Coach yourself to do it. Coach those with you. And then give them back to God. Thank you.
Coach, thank you very much. Will you join me in prayer? Good and gracious God, we give you thanks for this day, for this time, for the stories we've heard, for your incredible love. Lord, as we leave this day, help us to not only recognize that love in our lives, help us to share that love with all those that we meet. Help us to be generous in all that we do, just as you're generous in giving your love to us. In your name we pray. Amen. Friends, thank you for being here.